Hey guys, and welcome back to thebrokermatch.com. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our buyer's detailed video where we will go through the entire buyer's transaction in detail for you. Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Steven, and I'm joined here by my brother Tim.
Hello again.
And if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and our links are in the description if you want to get in contact with us or visit our website.
Always www.thebrokermatch.com.
Yes. So let's dive right in. So if you want to buy a home, what paths do you have available? You have 3 different paths available. You can go unrepresented. You can use an agent as a facilitator in your transaction, or you can use an agent as a full service broker. And so let's talk about the first 2, and then in the rest of this video, Tim, we'll follow a transaction, and I'll bounce questions off of you as a full service broker.
Yeah, awesome.
So this first path you have available to you is buying by yourself. It's possible, and people do it all the time. So Tim, if you, as an experienced agent, were to buy some of your own property, would you represent yourself? You know how to do it?
Yeah. So of course I know how to do it, but would I represent myself in the buying or selling of my own property? So short answer, most agents I know, including myself and my father, always prefer to use a trusted outside perspective to handle our personal real estate transactions. We do this for a bunch of different reasons, but predominantly it can be a very emotional and expensive transaction. So essentially all of the responsibilities of this agent are on that agent, right? And so if I'm trying to also move myself and my family and do all the logistics side of the things, now I'm trying to fulfill 2 roles, one of the client and of the agent, versus just letting that go into the agent that I know and trust. So and really predominantly back to the emotional side, it is very difficult to look at your own property, especially where your kids took their first steps, or where you guys got married for the first time, went into this house or whatever. It's hard to disengage yourself from that and come up with a realistic and science only estimate for your house, and then market it as such as well without keeping those emotions tied in. So even I, as a professional agent, full service agent, use another agent to list my own property.
Yeah, I mean, we've all experienced this when dealing with sellers. We know that sellers, their own home is more valuable than anything else to them. And so sometimes it's hard to price that right for an open market with outside perspectives that haven't lived in your home and haven't loved it like you have.
Right.
So we'll take a look at what all those responsibilities that the agent has, which in this situation you would have if you're doing this all by yourself. Later on in this video. So the second path a buyer has available to them is using an agent as a facilitator. So to lead you on here, Tim, part of a real estate broker's responsibilities are to help a buyer see and find a home. But what if that buyer already found a seller and a home to buy?
Yeah, so that comes into the facilitator side of it, like you're talking about here. And you can use an agent. You can also use a lawyer to do this paperwork and facilitate. But basically, having both sides already in agreement. That's really the only time you ever want to do this, is when maybe it's a family member or your next door neighbors or something. There's a situation where you as a seller and you as a buyer have agreed on a price, have agreed on all the terms, and really all you need is someone to draft that paperwork for you for the state or the title and escrow. And that's what you're paying the facilitator for. If it comes down to it and there's going to be any negotiation at all, even though Washington State, for example, is it's allowed to do and represent both sides, I feel it's unethical. And it really, even if it's not unethical, it's definitely difficult to tell the buyer, I'm going to get you the lowest price possible, and turn around and tell the seller, I'm going to sell your home for the highest amount possible. So if there's going to be any negotiation at all, it needs to be totally a fiduciary responsibility to one client or the other. But you can be a facilitator. Yeah, if you guys have agreed to all the terms ahead of time, you can use an agent or a lawyer as a facilitator for sure.
Awesome. So a facilitator manages the transaction, all the paperwork, and they do it neutrally if a buyer already found a home. So they're not necessarily representing the buyer's best interest or the seller's.
Or the seller, right. Exactly. Yeah, they have to be neutral in this case.
But what we always recommend is a full representation whenever entering into a contract of any kind.
Right.
And that's the third path we'll be talking about a buyer has available to them, and that's using a full service agent.
Yep.
So Tim, as a buyer, should I go find a lender first before I talk to you?
Yeah, so we have a couple different scenarios here, but short answer is you should really only go to a lender first if you already have a mortgage and you're using a particular lender that you really enjoy, so that you can talk to them about your plans for buying this new property, the second property. But when we match you to a local professional broker to handle your transaction wherever you are in the U.S., they will most likely know and refer you to the best lender to handle your transaction. Of course, they can't legally tell you which lender to use, but we all have our lenders that we do transactions with and work with all the time. And so take advantage of that professional relationship and use the one that or the different ones that they recommend to get pre-approved. The bottom line is each purchase is so unique, and different lenders have different tools available to help you get into a home under the best terms. So it's best to use your broker's referrals for the lenders, inspections, and any other professional you will need throughout the transaction. They will work with you and these same people year round, and they know who fits you and your purchase the best. So trust your agent through that process.
Awesome. Okay. So when a buyer finally meets with one of our match professionals for the first time, what does that first meeting look like?
Yeah, so we are matching you with someone here locally, someone across the nation. What does that look like? The real estate professional needs some details from the buyer in order to start working, and that's part of our intake process with with our clients, is to have this education appointment and get all these details ready. And then beyond that, the real estate professional that we're then partnering you with will have a few more details that they need. Tools available to licensed professionals allow them to search far more specifically than consumer tools on these third-party websites. This means they need to do all those little details, like you have a dog and you'd like a fenced backyard, or you'd like to live in a home without HOAs, things like that that aren't necessarily on Zillow or Redfin or other third-party sites. And so having that one-on-one again with that broker will help. Once they have this profile, this picture of your ideal home and a price range acceptable to you and your lender, then the search begins, and that's what a typical buyer's meeting looks like.
Okay, so they'll refer you to a lender if you haven't found one already. You'll get pre-approved. They'll get all the details about what you're looking for, and then with that pre-approval, they know, what do they know? That you're qualified, I guess?
Yeah, the pre-approval is huge, especially right now in the seller's market. I would say it's mandatory. It's required, that pre-approval. So it allows the seller and the seller's agent to know that you're a serious buyer, that you're qualified, that you have the funds, and that in a lot of cases, all that underwriting may have already started, and all the paperwork that could potentially take a while has already begun as well.
Awesome. Okay, so the first initial response of the buyer are to figure out exactly what they want in a home and to get a referral to a lender from their match broker. And the agent's responsibilities are to know a great lender for that client and to be ready to meet and collect all those important details.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so then the pre-contract work starts, scouring through photos, calling sellers, scheduling showings, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. So what happens when you found a home and you heard from your agent that they were in contact with the seller's agent and they already have multiple offers on the home?
Yeah.
How do you compete? What makes a competitive offer?
Yeah, so we're talking for buyers right now, right? So you've got an agent who is phenomenal. Their whole job right now is to be in constant communication with this listing agent. And I've seen it so many times where the buyer's agent will just write up the offer, never talk to the listing agent at all outside of submitting the offer, and really be shooting in the dark here. So having that communication, again, is key, and understanding what the competition, what kind of competition is even out there, and then what does that look like, so that you know that your buyers are in a place to even compete in the first part of this. And that helps set that emotional expectation so that as a professional real estate broker, you can help manage that with your clients. So then, yeah, you're in a multiple offer situation. Really, you're going to want to use all the tools you can that a good buying agent will have to help you win that offer. And a lot of people get stuck on the price. They think that that's the one thing that really sets it over and above, but there are so many other tools in the contract. There's 30 pages of contract that you're signing. There's so many other things in there that that can make or break a contract. And representing on the seller side, when you're displaying and showing these multiple offers, 6 different offers across the table, you'll say, yeah, here's all the prices, but look, this person waived their inspection. This person is closing early. This person is allowing you to rent back and stay in your place for free so that you can move without all the stress of having to be out in the next weekend, just whatever. There's 100 different things you can do as a buying agent to sweeten the deal if price isn't something they can compete on. And so, again, part of our job as matchmakers is finding you that professional buying agent that will help represent you, but also that knows their craft. That's what it comes down to, is outside of just getting your license that anybody can do you know your craft, and can you represent the clients well? And that's what our reputation is built on. So
definitely, yeah. Here at the Broker Match, we like to distinguish between agents, not just if they're licensed, but if they're experienced,
right? Yeah.
And what market they're working in. All right. So after the buyers find their home and they want to purchase, how do they go about buying it?
Yeah, so you just won this offer. Congratulations. Now you guys are what's called mutual. You and the buyer and the seller have agreed. You're mutually accepted on this offer. Traditionally, in this market here at least, it's a 30-day process with a financed offer, but it could be a matter of days or weeks with cash. It could be longer depending on an appraisal, just a myriad of different things. But generally speaking, the offer period from the buyer's perspective is where all the work happens. The seller did all the work prior to listing and getting under contract. Now the seller's going to sit back, and the buyers sort of sat back and looked for homes, and now it's your job as a buyer. So we're mutual. After that, we're going to do an inspection typically for a house, or a feasibility period for land, where we're just going to make sure that this house or this land is ready for you and can do everything that you want it to do, that it passes the inspection, et cetera, et cetera. Some cases with finance offers, those are required. And so after that inspection is complete and then negotiated for repairs, then you're going to move into the appraisal phase. The appraisal will be hired by the lender. Again, if this is a finance offer, you get to skip this whole phase if you're a cash offer, which is why cash is king. Typically, especially again in this market right now, a huge seller's market. So after the appraisal, then you're going to go right on to close. So it's a pretty, it seems like a pretty straight period of getting through this offer, but behind the scenes, your professional agent is busy running around, making sure all these dates are met, making sure you don't fall out of contract, because the most important thing here is that if you, as the buyer, fall out of contract outside of one of these contingency periods, these sort of get out of jail free card periods, you are in jeopardy of losing your earnest money, and that is the good faith money that you put down at the beginning of this whole contract. So your agent wants to be protecting you, protecting that money, protecting this contract, and helping you get to close, and doing everything that they can possible to help you get to this close, including the negotiations with the listing agent. And then you sign your title and escrow report. You get your documents all signed right before closing, and they go and record, and you close.
So it's the day of closing. What should I expect as a buyer?
Yeah, congratulations, you made it, which is good. So this is the day everybody's been waiting on. You guys signed a contract. You put in there the date of possession. You've already signed with title and escrow at this point. So what happens on the day of closing is that title and escrow office are taking all of those documents to the county, and they are recording. And that usually happens in the afternoon, but could happen really any time. Once they've recorded and they've got those recording numbers, they're going to call your agent, listing and buying agent, and tell them, congratulations, you've closed. So at that point, the seller, the listing agent will go get the keys. The seller usually has already moved out, or should at least be out by the time that happens. The house should be cleaned, the property, cleaned and turned over. And the buyer at this point is really just antsy and getting ready to get in and do the work they need to move in. So pre-planning your contractors for new paint or carpet or whatever, pre-planning your moving trucks, whatever needs to happen, you'll just stay in touch with that agent. Agent will get you the keys, closing gift, and a big hug, carry you across the threshold. So kind of an exciting day for everybody. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks, Tim, for going through the whole buyer's transaction for us. I know that was a lot to talk through, and thank you all for listening. If you guys have any questions or comments, please please leave them below or check out the links in the description for ways to get in contact with us.
Yeah, thanks guys. If you are interested now in the selling side, we're going to be doing the same thing with the seller's side of the video, so check that out as well.
Thanks.